What's up guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to rebuild a 1979 Johnson or Evinrude 6 horsepower carburetor. Here's the rebuild kit. It's a Sierra International rebuild kit, and the link to it can be found in the video description, as well as other useful links and other useful information regarding this rebuild, so make sure you check that out. And if this video helps you out, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up button for me. Thanks. So the first thing you want to do is remove the load speed needle. This right here is the low speed needle. Once you have it removed, you can remove this brass piece right here using a 7/16 inch wrench. Inside of here is some rubber gaskets. You can use a pick or something similar to remove the rubber gaskets. Once you have the gaskets out, you want to take the bottom part off. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws that hold the bottom bowl on. You want to remove those screws to remove the bowl. Once you have the screws removed, you can just simply remove the bowl and set it aside. Once the bowl's removed, you can remove the gasket off of the bowl, and you can remove the float. The float should remove by removing this pin here. Just push in on either end to slide it out. Once the pin's out, you can lift the float straight up. Careful not to lose this needle valve and its retaining clip, and set it to the side. Next, we want to remove these two brass fittings. Might need a big flathead screwdriver to do this one. The aftmost end, or the end that mounts to the engine block. Remove the brass fitting, and there's also a little plastic washer that goes along with it. You can also remove this brass piece. Be careful not to strip the head there. Place it to the side. Next, on the top housing, you're going to want to remove this metallic cap here. The easiest way I've found to remove this metallic top, it's a really soft metal, so you can take a small drill bit and screw a small hole in there, being careful not to go all the way through. You can take a pick and punch it the rest of the way. Make sure you're on a soft surface so you don't damage the bottom of the carb like this wood table. Once you've broken through, you can just simply kind of twist and pry until you get the cover out, like that. There's a lot of ports and jets in here that need to get really cleaned out well, so that's why you need to remove this metallic cap whenever you rebuild or clean a carburetor. So there's one last piece that I forgot to remove on the bowl, and that's just simply this big flathead screw here, and we'll remove it so we can clean out that section. The carburetor is completely broken down and ready to be cleaned. A few things you can soak this carburetor, the body in, is acetone. If it's really gummed up and it's got a lot of oily or gas residue, acetone tends to eat that away pretty well. Just let it soak overnight or for several hours. Another thing is sea foam. You can buy that at Walmart or anywhere, and you can just soak it in it, and it really cleans out the carburetor. Just a good can of carburetor cleaner will also do the trick. So just make sure once you break it down, before you put the rebuild kit on, you clean it very well with some sort of cleaning agent of your picking. In the video description will be various, I'll put a link to acetone so you can see what that is if you're not familiar, or seafoam if you're not familiar with that. Just make sure to check out the video description. Once you've cleaned the two bodies of the carburetor, the upper and the lower body, sufficiently, and are ready to reassemble the carburetor with your rebuild kit, you can open up your rebuild kit. You can find all of your gaskets, and you got a new needle, a new brass fitting. You also have this Johnson Evinrude carburetor instruction sheet. I'll try to scan this and leave a link in the description below to this disassembly, cleaning, and reassembly procedure, so you can print that out as well. So what you want to do first is remove the packaging and lay out everything you need. So the packaging comes with many different of these metallic caps. So we only removed one, so you want to pick the one that fits your model, and it looks like the smaller one fits this carburetor. So out of this package, I'm reusing the float. The float is in good condition. It doesn't need to be replaced. This kit does not come with a float. I'll leave a link to a new float in the description. I couldn't find this kit that included a float, a different part number that included everything you see here plus the float. Some other motors or other carburetors have that option, but I couldn't find it for the 6 horsepower. So I'll leave a link to the float in the video description. Out of the kit, I'm using a new washer for in here, a new metal cap, new brass fitting, new washer for that, the new needle spring, and the new pivot shaft that goes in here for the float, and a new gasket. And a new gasket for this bottom housing screw here. First thing you want to do is replace the center brass fitting. Finger tighten it down, and then snug it to seat. Then after that, you want to take your new brass fitting, slide the new washer over, and slide it, and get it good and snug. Once you have these two in place, you can begin to reassemble the float. On the float, the part that goes up is the part with this cutout in it. You can also tell by the offset nature of this tang on this pivot bracket here. The tang or the tab goes up. Before you put the float in, you need to reassemble the needle here to its retaining clip. Slide the retaining clip onto the metallic bracket on the float and gently lower it down into its spot, and then you can slide the pivot pin back into its place, so everything there now works properly. Once you have the float installed, one thing that you have to do is adjust the float. To properly adjust the float, you can hold it in your hand, hold it up to eye level, and you can look. It's kind of hard to see from this camera angle, but you want the top of the float, that surface, to be level with the carburetor body face here. So you want this plane and this plane to be parallel with each other. If you install the float and it's not parallel, you can adjust it by kind of bending this tab here, and that will help you adjust the level surface of the levelness of the top surface of the float. Next step is to put the new washer on this piece, reinstall it into the bottom bowl, tighten it down. Once you have that done, you can go ahead and put the new gasket on the top bowl. Take the top bowl, slide it on. So I just tried to put the top bowl back on, and it turns out that this pin, the new pin in the rebuild kit, is slightly longer than the old pin. I don't know how well that's showing up, but you can see silver pin slightly longer than the yellowish pin, and that's not allowing this piece to slide over cleanly. It's interfering, so I'm going to use the old pin. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just a piece of metal. Slide back over cleanly. Now we're going to reinstall our 5 bolts. Once you got the bottom bowl back on the carburetor, you're ready to reinstall the top metallic cap. To do that, it is basically just a press fit down into the hole. You want to center up the cap really well, and then you want to get a blunt object. That could be probably preferably something like a punch or just any really blunt object. You're going to center it up on the hole and then tap it down into the orifice. Whenever you do that, it expands the edges and it makes a seal. Once you have the cap back on the carburetor, the last step is to place the high-speed needle valve back into position, and you also need to place the gasket back into the hole. Once you have the gasket in place, go ahead and rethread the fitting, tighten it back down with a 7/16 inch wrench to good and snug, and then reseat the valve. Once the needle bottoms out, you want the initial setting is to back it out from its seated position 1 1/2 turns. So you can mark with a Sharpie the initial position and then back it out 1 and then 1/2 turns, and that'll be your initial setting for your carburetor. And this setting will do for now. Once you get it back on your motor and you're out on the water in your boat, you can adjust this to fine-tune its final position. So that's how you rebuild Johnson or Evinrude 6 horsepower carb. Please make sure to check the video description for more information and click the like button and the subscribe button for me. Thanks for watching.